Chapter 1822. Thousands of vines wrapped around the brown praying mantis. Yi Qinghan originally thought that the praying mantis was dead for sure. He was prepared to continue searching for creatures that could harm him, but before he could look away, the praying mantis cut off some of the vines and quickly swallowed them. The start-whining vine could swallow anything, but now, its vines were being swallowed by another creature. Yi Qinghan's eyes widened as he stared in disbelief. Bang bang bang. The rest of the vines quickly wrapped around the praying mantis, but the praying mantis did a death roll. The vines wrapped around its body were quickly broken. Then, its two arms in front of it danced like a pair of knives. All the broken vines were rolled up in an orderly manner and swallowed into its stomach. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He had never seen such an exaggerated monster before. Fuck! What the hell is this? The divine bird saw the praying mantis rushing towards the start-whining vine and immediately shouted. The broken voice let out an earth-shattering howl as if it had been humiliated. The brown praying mantis grabbed several vines and quickly rushed towards the start-whining vine. The start-whining vine was also shocked. It had never seen a creature that was willing to swallow it. Countless vines were unable to stop the praying mantis's charge. Following that, an even larger praying mantis rushed out of the valley. Compared to the tiny praying mantis in front of it, it was like heaven and earth. It's a female praying mantis. Yi Qinghan was shocked. The tiny praying mantis was already so terrifying, so the female praying mantis was probably even more terrifying. Run! Yi Qinghan shouted. Whoosh! The star-twining vine quickly abandoned some of its vines and fled with the divine bird. One of its vines wrapped around an ancient tree on the opposite side of the cliff. It swung over like a swing and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. However, the tiny praying mantis leaped up as if it was flying. The cliff that was dozens of meters wide could not stop it at all. Boom boom boom. The huge praying mantis rampaged. The mountain rocks and ancient trees were like rotten branches. They were all cut down by its huge praying mantis knife. Its strong hind legs could leap hundreds of meters. It was much faster than humans. Whoosh! When the start-twisting vine was not far away from Yi Qinghan, the divine bird flew up and landed on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. It stared at the praying mantis with a frightened expression and shouted, "What kind of praying mantis is this? It's even more edible than the start-twisting vine." Yi Qinghan frowned as he stared at the tiny mantids. Even though they were small, they were still much bigger and stronger than him. Especially those two thick and strong hind legs, they were extremely powerful. He reckoned that as long as they were kicked in the chest, even a lower-level expert would be stomped to death. The pincers in front had barbs and were incomparably sharp. As long as they pierced into the body of an expert, the divine power defense would definitely not be able to defend against them. Yi Qinghan put away the wishful bell and swapped it for the berserk saber. Bang! Frenzied Blade's blade was imbued with sharp divine power and terrifying destructive energy as it ruthlessly slashed towards the mantis. Boom! The energy shattered the mountain rocks as if it wanted to destroy the mountains and rivers. The white blade aura had already transformed into a long rainbow that rushed into the depths of the galaxy. In the blink of an eye, the mantis waved its huge pincers and collided with the blade. Yi Qinghan felt as if he was standing on a real divine weapon and not on a body of flesh and blood. A terrifying energy came from the back of the saber, causing the saber in his hand to almost fly out of his hand. Ha! Yi Qinghan roared angrily as a terrifying energy erupted from his waist. Borrowing the power of the mountains and rivers, he instantly rushed onto the berserk saber and swept the tiny mantids away. Screech! The tiny mantids' mantis blades were almost cut in half. Flesh and blood splattered in all directions as they let out shrill cries. The female mantis at the back was even more enraged. It leaped 1,000 feet and rushed from the opposite side of the cliff to 100 meters away from Yi Qinghan. It directly caught the tiny mantids in midair and then placed them on the ground. It stared at Yi Qinghan with its green eyes. Its fangs were like blades, and its strong arms and hind legs were slightly bent. It was ready to attack. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He almost couldn't withstand the tiny mantid's strength just now. If this female mantis went berserk, even if he attacked with all his strength, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand its attack. You fight first. I'll get reinforcements for you. The divine bird spread its wings and flew up to the main vine of the star-twining vine. It shouted, "Why aren't you running?" Yi Qinghan didn't have time to bicker with it. Even if it had stepped into the realm of a sector lord, he didn't think of asking it for help. It would be good enough if it didn't help him instead. The star-twining vine was also frightened by this mantis. It didn't even care about its master as it fled into the distance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The mountain rocks beneath the giant mantis' feet were all crushed. It was accumulating power, and the two mantis blades in front of it were emitting a cold light. Boom boom boom. Yi Qinghan's blood and qi churned, and his dragon blood boiled. His body emitted a powerful dragon's aura. He originally wanted to intimidate the giant mantis, but this fellow seemed to like high-level bloodlines very much. It could evolve by devouring blood and qi, so it became even more bloodthirsty. Boom. Hua. The mantis waved its giant pincers, making a whistling sound in the air. It directly smashed towards Yi Qinghan. Bang. Yi Qinghan used all his strength to smash the giant pincers. From bottom to top, it carried the power of heaven and earth. This strike was enough to destroy mountains and valleys. Its speed was extremely fast, and it ruthlessly chopped towards the giant mantis head. Wang. The 7-foot berserk mantis exposed its dominance, but it was actually caught by the giant pincers. Boom. Woo woo woo. The giant mantis didn't manage to chop off the berserk mantis. It directly pulled Yi Qinghan up from the ground and threw him ruthlessly. It actually threw Yi Qinghan several hundred meters away, and he crashed heavily into a hill. Bang. Hua. Yi Qinghan's body smashed through the rocks and crashed into the mountain. The long saber left his hand and pierced into the side of a mountain. If not for his freakish physical body, it would have taken his life. Fuck, this freak's strength is so strong. Yi Qinghan quickly climbed out of the hole. His bones creaked and his organs nearly shifted positions. The giant mantis thought that Yi Qinghan was dead for sure. The small mantids on its back raised their large mantis sabers and waved them in a show of force. They seemed to be very intelligent. However, when they saw Yi Qinghan crawling up, they became even angrier and charged towards him. Yi Qinghan grabbed at the sky and shouted angrily, "Saber, come!" The berserk mantis trembled and was pulled out from the side of the mountain. It transformed into a bolt of lightning and rushed back into Yi Qinghan's hand. Yi Qinghan clenched his hand and the berserk mantis transformed into a mark and returned to his bloodline. He then grabbed the Rui bell. Big, big, big. Yi Qinghan grabbed the top of the Rui bell and constantly urged it. In the blink of an eye, the bell's mouth was about to cover the sky. Yi Qinghan stomped his feet and rushed into the sky with the Rui bell. He directly enveloped the two mantids from above. Wang! The Rui bell roared as it was struck by the force. It reverberated far away. The majestic sound of the bell reverberated through the ages, as though it came from the ends of the endless wilderness. Chapter 1823. Yi Qinghan was like a god of war as he held the Rui bell in his hand. Beams of light shot out in all directions as Buddhistic light stretched out for thousands of miles. It was as though he was a true Buddha. The Rui bell was filled with boundless Buddhistic dharma as it bound the two ferocious beasts within. Suppress! Yi Qinghan roared as the bell's chimes turned even more awe-inspiring. It was as though an ancient Buddha was reciting Buddhist scriptures, crushing all resistance. Boom! Screech! The gigantic mantis cried out tragically as it tried to rush out of the Buddhistic light's encirclement. However, it was unable to break free from the Rui bell's shackles. A gigantic ancient Buddha appeared behind Yi Qinghan. Its hand blotted out the sky as it held the Rui bell and pressed down with the force of a thunderbolt. Boom! The Rui bell suppressed the two mantises within. There was another universe within the bell. After it suppressed the mantises, it rapidly shrank back to the size of a palm. The mantises constantly struck the Rui bell within the bell. The bell's chimes were mighty and deafening. It caused one's lifeblood to churn as though they were about to die. Unfortunately, the bell's chimes only reverberated within the Rui bell's universe. There was no response outside. The Rui Bel's universe of Buddhistic Dharma was filled with scriptures. No matter how the two mantises attacked, they were unable to break through the Rui Bel's universe. Instead, they were suppressed by the Buddhist scriptures and constantly tempered. Moments later, they were on the brink of death. Only after using the Rui Bel once did one realize how powerful it was. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed as he fiddled with the Rui Bel. He realized that it was of the same type as the spear. It might even be of a higher level. At that moment, the divine bird had yet to escape. When it saw Yi Qinghan suppress the two ferocious beasts, it immediately turned back and exclaimed in a flattering manner, "Master is mighty. Once your hegemonic aura is released, the world submits to you. My respect for you is like a torrential river that flows endlessly. It's like the overflowing yellow river that cannot be stopped. Me too. Me too." The start-whining vine released a soul fluctuation as it flattered him. Yi Qinghan scoffed as his divine robes fluttered in the wind. He looked like a god of war as he waved his hand and kept the Rui Bel. He said nonchalantly, "How many divine treasures have you searched? Are you willing to share some with me?" When the divine bird heard this, it immediately flattered Yi Qinghan by bringing all the sacred medicines that the star-twisting vine had found to Yi Qinghan. Then it said wretchedly, "How can we split them up? What's ours is master's. Please keep them well. In the future, when we find them, we'll immediately bring them to you. You don't have to be polite with us spirit pets." "Oh," Yi Qinghan calmly replied with a single word. It was hard to tell if he was happy or angry. He casually took all the storage rings and discovered that the divine bird had actually separated all the different grades of godly herbs. There was actually an entire storage ring filled with 15th grade saintly herbs, and there were actually more than 30 16th grade saintly herbs. This was definitely better than the one he had taken. Yi Qinghan glanced at the two legendary pets in surprise. He realized that although these two were a little cheap, their ability to find treasures was still very strong. "Very good. Since you're so filial, I'll kindly accept it. In the future, you can keep the 13th grade saintly herbs for yourself. I don't need them." Yi Qinghan unceremoniously took all the 14th grade, 15th grade, and 16th grade saintly herbs and threw the 3 storage rings filled with 13th grade saintly herbs to the divine bird. After saying that, he turned around and left, leaving the divine bird and the star-twisting vine in despair in the cold wind. As the wind blew, the divine bird's feathers were messy. It stared at Yi Qinghan's departing back and muttered, "Do you think this divine bird is a beggar? Next time I find treasures, I should hide some more." The battle here didn't alarm anyone else. Or rather, Yi Qinghan had just finished the battle after being alarmed. The group of experts from the small sects only saw the Buddhist light soaring into the sky, surrounded by jewels and treasures. They thought that they had found some saintly herbs and hurriedly rushed over. The half-step Eternal Realm expert quickly discovered Yi Qinghan and his figure flickered as he approached. Yi Qinghan quickly took out the wishful bell and retreated hundreds of steps, creating a distance between them. However, the lower realm expert still thought that Yi Qinghan had taken away the most precious saintly herbs and chased after him. As the distance between them got closer and closer, the more the lower realm expert looked at Yi Qinghan, the more familiar he felt. When he was about 300 meters away, he finally saw Yi Qinghan's identity. Coincidentally, this person had seen the battle between Yi Qinghan and Arthur and recognized Yi Qinghan. "It's you, Yi Qinghan from the insane sect?" The lower realm expert frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan. His big hand was already on the hilt of his sword. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he narrowed his eyes at the newcomer and reminded in a deep voice, "Senior, my insane sect came here for resources, not to fight. We also have lower realm experts. Do you think your sect's 100 people can compete with my insane sect? It's just 20 people. Are you threatening this king?" The lower realm expert sneered. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't expect the other party to want to kill him. Yi Qinghan held the wishful bell and kept shaking his head. "Senior, this is not a threat, but a fact. We are evenly matched. We don't want to provoke trouble and make enemies. Presumably, you don't want to either. Why don't you retreat?" You look for your treasures and we will look for ours. The resources in this huge shrouding heaven secret realm are enough for us to use. However, when the person saw that Yi Qinghan was unwilling to fight, he thought that Yi Qinghan was afraid of them. He immediately threatened, "If you want this king to retreat, it's easy. Hand over 10 storage rings filled with divine herbs and this king will not hurt you." "Pa, you idiot. My insane sect will only rob others, but we will never be robbed by others. My master just pitied your small sect and didn't want to rob you. But you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Before Yi Qinghan could speak, the divine bird mocked from the side. The lower plane cultivator was furious. He unsheathed his sword and pointed it at Yi Qinghan, tearing the sky apart. "This king will give you one last chance. Your lower realm experts will need at least an incense stick's worth of time to reach here. They can't save your life," the man said coldly. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He said lightly, "Since you don't cherish your life, I have nothing to say." Big. Yi Qinghan suddenly shouted. The wishful bell shone with Buddhist light, covering the mountains and rivers. The ancient Buddha behind him quickly grabbed the wishful bell and descended from the sky, enveloping the lower realm expert. The lower realm expert was shocked. He pulled out his sword and stabbed at the wishful bell. The sound of the bell rang again, but he couldn't break through the wishful bell's attack. He was suppressed by the bell. Bang! The wishful bell suppressed him, but Yi Qinghan's body seemed to have been drained. He had used the wishful bell twice in a row and had used all his strength. The strength in his body was exhausted and he couldn't even stand up. "Protect me." Yi Qinghan couldn't even take back the wishful bell. He quickly sat on the ground and swallowed dozens of God power pills. The strength in his body quickly returned and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth turned into a light screen, enveloping him. The lower realm expert quickly gathered and kept approaching Yi Qinghan. However, they didn't find their grandmaster. They were shocked and didn't dare to get close to Yi Qinghan. At this time, Jiang Jingtian had crossed several cliffs and appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1824. More than 100 people surrounded them, but they didn't dare to move when they couldn't see their old ancestor. Jiang Jingtian stood in front of Yi Qinghan alone. His spear shook and his aura soared to the sky. "TSK, your old ancestor has been suppressed and you still came to die. You really lack intelligence." The divine bird clicked its tongue and said, "Among the group of young experts, there were more than 10 ninth-level sector lords. The rest were around 5th or 6th level sector lords. If they were in a small region, they would definitely be a top-notch sacred ground. However, in Eternal World, they could only be considered as a small sect." They looked at Jiang Jingtian vigilantly and then looked at Yi Qinghan who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Finally, they fixed their eyes on the Rui Bell. They were a little frightened. At this moment, Zhou Yi had already brought a large number of Kuang sect experts to surround them. Hua! More than 20 eccentric sect experts, Zhou Yi, and the two little beauties surrounded the more than 100 people. Not long after, Yi Qinghan had recovered most of his divine power. He slowly stood up and waved his hand, keeping the Rui Bell in his arms. Looking at the group of people, his eyes flashed coldly and he snorted, "I understand now. In this shrouding sky secret realm, if we don't rob you, others will rob you. Instead of leaving you to other strong sects, why don't you let us take it? Where is my old ancestor? Let him out. Otherwise..." The leader of the group was considered the backbone of the group. At this moment he mustered up his courage and shouted at Yi Qinghan. Boom! Jiang Jingtian pierced through the void and nailed him to a withered mountain. The 100 people didn't dare to move. "Hand over all your resources. We only want resources and not lives. If you dare to talk nonsense with me, you will end up like that person." Yi Qinghan warned coldly. The group of experts had lost their backbone. In addition, the Kuang sect was too strong. They didn't dare to resist and could only hand over all their gains in the past few days. Even the extra storage rings were robbed. "Senior, can you return our old ancestor to us?" One of the beauties pleaded. "If you don't want to leave, then you don't have to. I'll give you a free ride." Yi Qinghan did not show any mercy. Now that this lower plane expert knew about the Rui Bell, he could not allow him to live. That group of people was so frightened that they hurriedly fled. Without any experts to gather, if they were to gather again, only death would await them. Therefore, in an instant, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The experts of a decent small sect dispersed and scattered in some rugged and difficult-to-traverse dangerous places, afraid that they would bump into the experts of other large sections. After the group of people left, Yi Qinghan forcefully killed the lower-level cultivator he was suppressing. He took all of his storage rings and threw the corpse out. He even took the defensive holy divinity garment and the divine sword. The corpses satisfied the twisting star Teng's craving, and Yi Qinghan beat up the two powerful mantises until they were on the verge of death. He then sent them out and looked at the mantises curiously. Bang! The female mantis exuded a golden light. Its entire body was a treasure. It was the best material for refining sacred weapons. This is called the golden sky mantis. It is a 5th-grade vicious beast. Its 2 mantis blades are equivalent to 5th-grade top sacred weapons. It is the most powerful weapon for killing and bleeding. The barbs on its pincers are shocking. Once it pierces a person's body, it is very difficult to pull it out, Zhou Yi quickly explained. Yi Qinghan was very excited. He could make use of this female praying mantis, but the baby mantis had yet to mature. Even if he killed it, he wouldn't be able to obtain any good materials. There was no need to waste such a precious resource, so he tossed it far away. However, the baby mantis ran back and attached itself to the female mantis. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, demonstrating to Yi Qinghan. The female mantis was dying, but it protected the baby mantis under its body. It crawled in front of Yi Qinghan, constantly kowtowing and begging. Its wisdom was very high. Qinghan, this creature can be tamed. It is very powerful, even more powerful than human experts of the same level. You can catch it because you have a divine weapon that surpasses the half-step eternal sacred weapon. It is a pity to kill this creature. It is better to keep it as a spiritual pet. It is also good to use it as a means of transportation, Zhou Yi reminded him. Yi Qinghan thought about it. It was indeed a pity to kill it. It was better to use it as a means of transportation for Jianqinshui. It could also protect Jianqinshui's safety. Therefore, Yi Qinghan stared at the golden sky mantis and said coldly, "Since your wisdom is extremely high, I will not kill you. However, if you want to live, you must form a master-servant contract with my wife and protect her for life. Otherwise, I will kill your children and break your golden body." Sweet. The female golden sky mantis kept kowtowing and did not dare to resist. It was afraid that Yi Qinghan would attack it again, but it was also afraid that its son would be killed by humans. Yi Qinghan pulled Jianqinshui over. He held the Rui Bell in his hand and looked at the female mantis vigilantly. He was also afraid that it would suddenly attack and hurt Jianqinshui. However, the female mantis was very sensible and took the initiative to issue a master-servant contract. Jianqinshui bit the tip of her tongue and flicked out a drop of her heart's blood. Chapter 1825. Inside the shrouding sky secret realm, the powerful sects seemed to have agreed that they would only search for treasures and not kill each other. However, the small sects and clans wanted to take advantage of the situation and kill each other. It had already reached a white-hot stage. Countless monsters seemed to have smelled the scent of blood. Birds flew into the sky and shuttled through the clouds. Beasts shuttled through the mountains. Roar! Roars echoed in the vast secret realm. The overlords' faces turned pale and their scalps went numb. There were too many monsters in the secret realm. They were in a state of hibernation all year round. Once they were awakened, they would definitely turn the secret realm upside down. Blood would flow like a river. Boom! A giant praying mantis stepped on the cliff and galloped from afar. The deepest part of the secret realm was where the resources were the most abundant. It was usually the battlefield of the 3,000-strong sects, the 100 clans, and the Holy Lands. There were no eternal sovereigns here. The strong sects were not much weaker than the Holy Lands. Every time they fought, blood would flow like rivers and corpses would pile up like mountains. In the end, some strong sects would be completely wiped out, leading to the fall of a strong sect. The people of the crazy sect rode the giant praying mantis and rushed into the depths. They wanted to get a share of the loot from the strong sects and the holy lands. The giant praying mantis shuttled through the valleys and over the cliffs. It rushed past hundreds of small forces and did not go down to snatch anything. It only stopped when it encountered some very important divine herbs. The divine bird was majestic. At this moment, there were very few divine herbs that could tempt it. A 15th grade divine herb could only make it hesitate for a moment. Only when it encountered a 16th grade divine herb would it be excited. After traveling for more than a month, several strong sects gathered in front of them. However, they did not fight. Instead, they were looking for something. Yi Qinghan ordered the golden sky praying mantis to slow down. They came to a secluded place and looked at the 4 strong sects searching around a radius of more than 300 miles. There must be some treasure. The divine bird looked around and said in confusion, "What are these idiots looking for? There is nothing good around here." Yi Qinghan did not believe that there was nothing here. Otherwise, it would not have attracted 4 strong sects to gather in such a small place. "Wait for me here. I will take the divine bird to the deeper parts," Yi Qinghan whispered. After he finished speaking, he rushed into the hinterland with the divine bird. Quite a number of masters were gathered here. Yi Qinghan quietly pounced forward, avoiding everyone's line of sight. The divine bird flew through the sky, cutting through the clouds to block the gold-devouring toad. "This divine bird is here in person. Where do you think you're going?" The divine bird stopped 100 meters in front of the gold-devouring toad, stepping on a weed, and said proudly. The gold-devouring toad's spirituality was not inferior to the divine bird, but its intelligence was definitely not as high as the divine bird. It couldn't open its mouth to speak, but it glared at the divine bird and opened its mouth. Some of its slender fangs were almost invisible, but they were extremely sharp. They could even bite through 16th grade treasures. Its long tongue was longer than a snake's and was very sticky. Once a prey was stuck, it would definitely die. However, the gold-devouring toad was a picky eater. It liked creatures with very high spirituality. It didn't have any natural enemies, but it reproduced slowly. This species was very rare. It was very precious, so it was the favorite of the disciples of the strong sects and sacred grounds. Before the gold-devouring toad could attack, Yi Qinghan had already appeared not far behind it, holding the Rui bell. He stretched out his hand and said, "Submit to me, and I will let you run rampant in the world." The gold-devouring toad gave up on the divine bird and rushed back to Yi Qinghan. Its tongue coiled around Yi Qinghan's neck, and its slender fangs bit at his throat. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, and a ray of Buddhist light shot out from the mouth of the Rui bell, scaring the gold-devouring toad away. "Let's go!" Yi Qinghan took away the Rui bell and confirmed that the 4 strong sects were looking for this mutated toad. Since he had taken it away, there was no need to stay here. Otherwise, the 4 strong sects would join forces to encircle and annihilate him. The divine bird quickly returned to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Yi Qinghan took the divine bird with him and turned into a rock. The vines on his body wrapped around the air, and he instantly rushed to the cliff 100 meters away. Then, he bounced up and swung 100 meters away in the blink of an eye. The group of people from the strong sects found Yi Qinghan's figure, but they didn't expect him to take away the treasure they were looking for after only appearing for a short while. Yi Qinghan continued to use the star-twining vine, which reverberated on the cliff. After a while, he returned to the group of people from the insane sect. "It's a mutated gold-devouring toad. It should be the legendary gold-devouring toad," Yi Qinghan whispered. Others didn't understand the gold-devouring toad, but Zhou Yi was a native of the Great World. How could he not understand the value of the gold-devouring toad? At this moment, his eyes were wide open. Chapter 1826. Yi Qinghan had taken the gold-devouring toad away. They were getting further and further away from the area surrounded by the 4 great sections. The 4 leaders of the 4 great experts all had a golden compass in their hands. It was called the treasure-seeking compass, and it had a special ability to detect special treasures or creatures with intelligence. At this moment, the golden light had dimmed. They knew that the gold-devouring toad had disappeared and was no longer here. With the 4 great experts guarding the 4 directions, the gold-devouring toad could not have escaped. They only needed to look at each other to understand that the item had been taken away by Yi Qinghan. During this period of time, there was only one expert who had passed by and left quickly. Chase, we must not let him leave. A lower-level expert angrily reprimanded. His prestige was far stronger than that of the lower-level expert Yi Qinghan had killed. The 4 lower-level experts called out their divine pets at the same time. They were all powerful battle-type divine beasts. Some were birds, some were ferocious beasts, but they were all at the overlord level. The ferocious beasts and birds sped away, chasing after Yi Qinghan's tracks. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was standing on the back of a giant praying mantis and sped away. He felt the evil aura behind him and knew that the other party had discovered him. Faster! Yi Qinghan patted the back of the giant praying mantis and said in a low voice. The 4 great experts chased at the same time as if they were chasing the stars and the moon, especially the 2 powerful birds. When they spread their wings, they covered the sky and covered the sun. The sky was dark and evil aura soared to the sky. Leave the treasure behind. Otherwise, you will undoubtedly die today and even implicate the sect. The 9th elder of the Red Water sect, Qi Shuihen, stood on the head of one of the birds. He had an imposing appearance and was dressed in cold clothes. He pointed his sword at Yi Qinghan in the distance. His voice was low and mighty, stirring up the surroundings. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 giant beasts pushed mountains and toppled trees, sweeping in all directions. They squatted down and jumped 1,000 meters away. They could jump hundreds of meters. Even the tall mountains and precipitous ridges could not stop them. If we hurry up, the 4 of them will be able to wipe us out. Zhou Yi's complexion changed drastically as he said in a deep voice, the lower-level realms of the strong sects are not the same as the lower-level realms you killed. Their mystic arts are far more powerful than the lower-level realms of the small sections. A lower-level realm of the strong sects can sweep away a lower-level realm of the small sects. Boom! The giant praying mantis' speed became faster and faster. It pounced on the mountain rocks and shattered all obstacles. The mantis blade was like a middle-level divine weapon, indestructible. Yi Qinghan relied on the barbs on the back of the mantis as he crossed his legs. With a wave of his hand, he manipulated the divine fire to transform into a holy bow. The blue beauty demonic fire transformed into a crossbow arrow. The flames burned the sky as the arrow was aimed at the bird. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan drew his holy bow to its fullest, and the tip of the arrow tore through the mountains and rivers as it tore through the void. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The void shattered with an irresistible force. It was as if it wanted to annihilate the mountains and rivers and destroy everything. Whoosh, whoosh. The blue flame crossbow arrow burned the sky, leaping higher and higher. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Qi Shuihen. Screeched at the bird felt that the crossbow arrow that threatened its life was approaching. It kept roaring and struggling madly as it tried to fly up into the sky. You're courting death. Qi Shuihen was extremely powerful. With a wave of his hand, he manipulated the origin of water between heaven and earth to form a water barrier in front of the bird. He quickly controlled the bird. Bang! Whoosh! The water barrier contained the ultimate mysteries of water. When it was hit by the blue beauty demonic fire, ripples of light spread out for thousands of miles. It was extremely dazzling. Qi Shuihen was extremely powerful and confident. He poured out his divine power and pushed the barrier forward. However, he was too confident. The water barrier only lasted for a breath before the divine arrow broke through the barrier with lightning speed. The tip of the arrow pierced through the water barrier and headed straight for the bird. Qi Shuihen was shocked. The bird was even more terrified as it dove diagonally toward a valley. Whoosh da puchi! Screech! The divine arrow broke the bird's right wing in the blink of an eye. It pierced through the steel-like divine wing and swept away a few divine feathers. The bird screamed as it lost its balance and fell into the distance. Qi Shuihan's face turned purple. Even if he was a lower plane expert, if he was thrown off the bird's back and fell from the sky, he would be half dead if not half dead. Up! Qi Shuihan grabbed the bird's neck and forcefully lifted it up. After he regained his balance, he quickly pressed it under a valley. The origin of water enveloped the bird. He used up his 16th rank water origin divine power to extinguish the blue beauty demonic fire. However, the bird's entire right wing was almost destroyed. It couldn't even fly, let alone chase after Yi Qinghan. Qi Shuihan could only sigh as he watched the other 3 experts chase after Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He stared at the other 3 experts who were still chasing after him with their divine pets. However, he wasn't in a hurry. Master is mighty. Shoot these idiots to death. It's best if they fall to their deaths, the divine bird shouted excitedly. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He stared at the Tai Lai sect on the far right. The one riding the illuminating sky crane is the chief disciple of the Tai Lai sect, Zhang Shaoshan, who belongs to the younger generation. His cultivation has reached the lower level, and his talent is extraordinary. He is not inferior to the holy son of the Holy Land. As for Jian Shan in front of him, he is probably not even fit to carry his shoes. He is only at the early level of the lower level, and I am at the peak of the lower level. However, if we fight, there is basically no hope of winning. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and made a strange expression. He stared at Zhu Tianhe's neck and pulled the bow again. The tip of the arrow glowed with a beautiful blue light. He kept adjusting the direction, looking for the best angle to shoot the arrow. Whoosh! The arrow broke through the air and soared into the sky. Squeak! Zhu Tianhe's voice was filled with panic and fear. He watched the blue flame arrow shatter the void and come, but he couldn't dodge it. However, Zhang Shaoshan grabbed its neck and swung it violently, twisting its body into an upside-down position. The arrow flew past its wings, almost igniting its immortal feathers. However, it was a close call and did not hurt its foundation. Yi Qinghan's expression was still strange, but his right eye was squinting. It looked funny, but no one laughed. Watch my 3 arrows. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His eyes were cold. He poured out his divine power and formed 3 arrows. The 3 arrows formed a triangle and blocked Zhu Tianhe's escape route. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom. The flames burned the void and the arrows almost reached Zhu Tianhe without any obstruction. Puchi! The first arrow pierced Zhu Tianhe's throat. Screech! Zhu Tianhe screamed. The blue flame had already burned his flesh. Boom! Then, the last 2 arrows broke the defense of his wings. The flames dissipated and attached themselves to Zhu Tianhe's body. Zhang Shaoshan was shocked and angry. He kept pulling Zhu Tianhe up. However, Zhu Tianhe had already lost consciousness. He couldn't change the speed of his fall. It was like a cannonball crashing into the ground. Bang! Although Zhang Shaoshan was shocked, he didn't panic. Just as he was about to fall off the cliff, he stepped on Zhu Tianhe's limp back. He bounced up and rushed to the top of the cliff. Chapter 1827. When Zhang Shaoshan fell, he grabbed onto the edge of the cliff. His legs were weak and his face was purple. Boom! Zhu Tianhe's body fell. He didn't even have the chance to escape. Boom! Zhang Shaoshan was furious. He broke the support point under his feet and rushed to the top of the cliff. Seeing Yi Qinghan and the rest leaving, he was furious. Peng ping peng! Boom! The giant praying mantis swaggered off. In this rugged and winding ravine, it was definitely much faster than the lower-level humans. Behind and to the left, there were still experts from the other 2 sects, but they were left behind by the giant praying mantis. The 4 experts looked at Yi Qinghan's back view. They were unwilling and chose to stop. Qi Shuihan, Zhang Shaoshan, and the rest gathered together and quickly drew a map of this place. Let's work together and block him. They're definitely not as familiar with this place as we are. As long as we block him, they won't be able to escape. Qi Shuihan suggested coldly. Who are those people? How come I've never seen them before? Zhang Shaoshan frowned and asked. It seemed like he didn't pay attention to the battle between Crazy Sect and Oshi Sacred Ground. Qi Shuai-hen snorted coldly. It's a newly risen sect called the Insane Sect. They have a total of 20 people, but their cultivation isn't weak. They lack a lower-level cultivator. Their sect leader is called Yi Qinghan, a sector lord level 9 expert. He once used 7 breaths of time to defeat Arthur Shen of the Oshi Sacred Ground. He became famous after that battle, but the 4 of us are more than enough to sweep them. Another bearded man snorted, let's not care about who they are. Let's talk about how to block them. This place is surrounded by ravines, and there are a few large canyons. Their mount should be the golden sky praying mantis. With its jumping ability, it won't be able to cross. So, if they want to enter the center, they have to go through the 9 immortal cloud cave. We'll take a detour and wait for them outside the cave. Zhang Shaoshan and Qi Shuai-hen looked at this expert and knew that he was the 6th leader of Mount Longhu. His name was Dragon 6, and his meteor hammer technique had reached the peak of perfection. He was a top lower-level expert, and even a veteran lower-level expert like Qi Shuai-hen might not be his match. As for the other blue-clothed scholar, he was a famous Buddha-faced but devil-hearted person. He called himself Scholar Stone Snow and loved beautiful scenery, poetry, and song lyrics. However, others called him Scholar Bloodthirsty. When he killed people, he would massacre cities at the slightest provocation. He wouldn't even spare a 3-year-old child. Although he looked kind, those who truly understood him didn't want to provoke him. Scholar Shi Shui was an elder of the demonic dragon sect. The demonic dragon sect was originally a branch of the heavenly demon cult. Later on, the heavenly demon cult fell apart. Without the suppression of the Holy Land, the demonic dragon sect became even more aggressive. They devoured the territories within a radius of tens of millions of miles. No one dared to resist, and most of the credit went to Scholar Shi Shui. At this moment, Scholar Shi Shui's lips curled into a cold smile. He drew an arc on the map and said indifferently, "This is a shortcut. I took it 100,000 years ago. Although it's a little dangerous, we can reach the 9th immortal cloud cave before them." At this moment, the experts of the 4 major sects had already caught up to them. Zhang Shaoshan and the others immediately ordered them to chase after Kuang Zong on the main road. The 4 of them rushed into the distance like lightning. Yi Qinghan didn't know that the 4 major experts had joined forces, and he didn't know that they would block him in front. He was moving quickly, searching for divine herbs in the surroundings. Along the way, he encountered a few small sections. Finally, he stopped hesitating and directly robbed them. However, he only wanted money and resources, not lives. The small sects only had 1 lower-level expert, and some sects didn't even have one. As long as the strongest expert was suppressed, the rest were just a bunch of ants. Almost no lower-level expert was a match for Zhou Yi. Not to mention, Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian were helping him from the side. Basically, they were killed instantly. The Kuang Zong ran rampant all the way. As long as they didn't encounter people from the major sects, they were unscrupulous. However, Yi Qinghan's divine sense was still considered strong, and he could completely avoid harm. The group of people was mighty, and they saw thousands of mountains and rivers. Waterfalls fell from the sky, and celestial qi filled the air. They couldn't wait to take root here. However, this place was not suitable for human survival because the powerful ferocious beasts had yet to appear. When they reached the hinterland, they would find that humans were too weak here. If the Kuang Zong lived here for 100,000 years, not even their bones would be left. Zhou Yi observed the terrain as he walked. He came here once in 100,000 years, and he had only come here twice. This was the 3rd time. Things were still there, but people had changed. Some of the Earth's crust was changing, and he had no idea where the road was. After walking for half a month, they came to a steep canyon. It was thousands of feet wide, and the cliff was steep without any support. The bottom was unfathomable, and it was pitch black. If they fell, they would definitely die. Even birds were unwilling to fly above, as if it was a forbidden area. In desperation, the Kuang Zong people had to change their direction again and continue to look for a route. However, Zhang Shaoshan and the other experts had already bypassed the main road and ventured into the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave through the small path. In the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave, red clouds filled the sky, and the clouds formed a strange vision. They were like powerful immortals who had not changed their appearance all year round. The huge caves seemed to have been excavated by the immortals, running through the canyon. Looking from afar, this place was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Many birds and beasts occupied this place and lived here. If a human entered a dead cave, there would be nothing left. They would be devoured by the flock of birds. There were many dead caves. Among so many caves, only 3 to 5 could go through to the hinterland. If they didn't go through the 9 Immortals' Cloud Cave, they would have to take a detour for hundreds of years. No one was willing to do that. The 4 experts had already appeared outside the 9 Immortals' Cloud Cave. They stared at the majestic stone statues in the canyon. These statues were like giants, and their movements were unpredictable, as though they were practicing supreme secret arts. Every movement was vivid and lifelike. However, no one was able to comprehend the secret arts from these statues. The 4 experts looked at these sculptures in boredom as they waited for Yi Qinghan. Who do you think carved these sculptures here? Zhang Shaoshan was the youngest, and he had only been here once. He didn't get here last time. Now that he saw these sculptures, he couldn't help but ask in shock. Even though Long Lu had been here a few times, he was still stunned when he saw these sculptures again. The majestic sculptures had a majestic aura, as if they carried the boundless vastness of heaven and earth. It made people feel reverence. It must be the work of a supreme eternal sovereign. Upper-level experts shouldn't have the ability to carve so many sculptures here, and they also contain profound mysteries that even we can't comprehend. Scholar Shi Shui gazed at the hundreds of towering sculptures and said with reverence. Qi Shuihen looked around. He vaguely remembered that when he came here last time, he wasn't an elder and was only a disciple. After 100,000 years, the heaven and earth changed, but this place was still the same. The waterfall was high in the sky, and the birds flew in the sky. The crisp sound of birds echoed in the canyon, melodious and pleasant. People like him who comprehended the origin of water liked this kind of environment the most. Chapter 1828. The deep canyon stretched from north to south, stretching endlessly. Even the gods would feel despair. Hua! Grains of sand and stones fell, cutting through the space below the canyon. It was extremely ear-piercing. Woo-woo, the wind blew under the canyon, unable to disperse. It hit the cliff, and the sound echoed for a long time. Yi Qinghan led the insane sect, Wu Qin and Wu Xing forward carefully, afraid of falling into the canyon. Screech! Birds swooped down from the sky, their sharp claws breaking the shackles. The weaker sector lords couldn't defend themselves in time and either fell into the canyon or were taken away by the birds. There were many strong warriors moving forward alone, and it was even more dangerous. Yi Qinghan held the holy bow in his hand, and blue flames surrounded him. He stared at the sky, afraid that the birds would suddenly attack. The insane sect was crowded, and once they were frightened, many people might fall into the canyon. Yi Qinghan and Zhou Yi guarded the front and back respectively. Lin Wutian and Gu Qing walked on both sides, and Jiang Jingtian was in the middle. The defense was especially tight. Boom boom boom. Dong dong dong. Some hurried sounds were like thousands of horses galloping, and the mountains and rivers were in chaos. Broken sand and stones fell along the side of the canyon. Yi Qinghan and the rest frowned and looked to the west. They saw thousands of beasts, and the birds roared into the sky as if they were frightened. Be careful, there are strong sects approaching, and there are many of them. Zhou Yi immediately reminded them. Yi Qinghan was shocked, and he quickly headed to the west. After crossing a valley, he looked to the west and saw at least 3,000 strong warriors riding on flying beasts. They were the strong sects that were looking for the gold-devouring toad a few days ago. They are really persistent. Luckily, the lower realms aren't here. Wait, they're here? Where did the 4 lower realms go? The divine bird asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan squinted at the strong warriors rushing over. He pulled his bow and grabbed some branches to use as arrows. Xiao! Screeched at the sound of the arrow broke through the void and resounded through the Milky Way. Bang! The first arrow pierced through a strong sector lord level 9 expert, and then into the throat of a huge beast behind him. Roar! At the Sector Lord Level 9 clutched his chest and screamed. He watched as his life force dissipated and he couldn't even release his last bit of will. He could only wait for death in despair. Boom! The huge beast behind Sector Lord Level 9 fell to the ground, causing the surrounding beasts to scatter. The expert on its back was flung away and fell off the cliff. Whooshed up with a wave of his hand, Yi Qinghan once again grabbed some dried tree branches. He then knocked more arrows onto his bow, and the string of his holy bow was about to snap. In the blink of an eye, at least 300 experts were attacked or affected, suffering heavy losses. However, there were at least a few thousand people in the 4 major sections. 300 or so people wouldn't be a big deal and would only anger them. At this moment, the beasts and birds were roaring and the mountains and rivers were agitated. It was as if there was a beast tide. Even more native beasts were frightened and rushed towards Yi Qinghan's direction. With Yi Qinghan's speed, it was impossible for him to kill all the beasts. Fuck! Let's hide! The divine bird cried out in panic. Yi Qinghan frowned and scolded, "How can we hide? There's still insane sect behind us." Boom boom boom. Roar roar roar. Tens of thousands of beasts rushed over, trampling on rocks and trees. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and kept the holy bow. His dragon blood boiled and flowed through his limbs and bones. Even his holy blood was burning. Roar. Dragon transformation technique. Yi Qinghan transformed into a heavenly dragon and rushed into the sky. Blue demon fire was attached to him, shaking the heavens and earth. The 1,000-feet-long dragon roared, wanting to shake the beasts off and escape. Roar. A roar filled the galaxy, causing the weaker beasts to kneel down. Pung ping pung. Boom. Some beasts and birds couldn't stop in time and fell to the ground. Screams filled the air as the birds fell. Boom. Hua. Yi Qinghan used Dragon Tail Strike to sweep across the 4 major sections. Xiu xiu xiu. There were quite a number of experts in the 4 major sects team. Many of them were on par with Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu. At this moment, they pulled out their swords and stepped on the heads of the beasts and soared into the sky. Their sharp sword chi tore through the sky. Xiu xiu xiu. More than 10 of them joined forces and attacked Yi Qinghan. They broke through all the restrictions and were unstoppable. Yi Qinghan quickly returned to his original form. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed a withered branch and transformed it into an ancient ominous weapon. He charged into the group of enemies at lightning speed, constantly dodging the experts and attacking the weak at the rear. Puchi! Boom! In an instant, Yi Qinghan was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. He used a withered branch to kill the overlords. Blood splattered on the cliff and dyed half the sky red. Adat screams filled the air. Roar! Among the insane sects group, a silhouette pulled out his sword and charged into the sky. The sword rainbow pierced through Godi, crushing the will of all enemies. With a thunderous force, he broke through the defense of a peak Sector Lord Level 9 and pierced Godi's throat. Puchi! A Sector Lord Level 9 expert died in an instant. Even in death, he couldn't believe that the young man in front of him could kill him in one strike. Lin Wutian was expressionless. He waved his hand and pulled out his sword. No one was a match for his sword. Most of them didn't even have the chance to use their sword before their throats were pierced through. Only a drop of blood flowed down the tip of the sword. It was extremely eye-catching. Boom! Jiang Jingtian's spear pierced through the mountains and rivers and charged into the battlefield. The 3 war gods swept through the surroundings. 1 spear, 1 sword, and 1 withered branch, killing all the overlords in the world. These strong sects were all dragons and phoenixes among men. Unfortunately, they were weak in the hands of these 3. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The withered branch in Yi Qinghan's hand broke apart, turning into countless light spots that shot out in all directions with the blue demon fire. It attacked almost indiscriminately into everyone's body. The Sector Lord level experts couldn't resist the 5th grade saint fire at all. Yi Qinghan, how dare you kill my sect's disciples? When my senior brother returns, you'll die without a doubt. The Tai Lai sect's disciple roared. The 6th master won't let you off. The Longhu sect's disciple roared. Only half of the 3,000 disciples had come. Now that their formation had been disrupted, They couldn't resist Yi Qinghan at all. Hand over the gold-devouring toad and I'll spare your life. The red water sect's disciple was still overbearing and arrogant. Yi Qinghan sneered. He waved his hand and summoned the 7-foot berserk hammer. His body grew taller, and his giant blood cells began to divide infinitely. The white blade light tore through the void with an indestructible blade aura, causing the experts' scalps to tingle. You've picked the wrong person. You've come to rob me, and I've always robbed you of everything. Are you going to hand over your storage rings and money, or do you want me to kill you and slowly search for them? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Sush. The experts of the strong sects quickly gathered and stared at Yi Qinghan. Their expressions changed. Half of the 4 sects had come. Even so, there were still more than 5,000 people. Now that more than 600 had been killed, the remaining 4,000 didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 1829. Boom. Yi Qinghan stepped on the rocks and crushed them. He, Lin Wutian, and Jiang Jingtian moved forward in a triangular formation. Their aura soared to the sky and suppressed the fighting spirit of the 4 strongest sections. It was unrealistic to kill all 4,000 people with the insane sect's small number of people. It was impossible to kill half of them. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He only wanted to rob these people. Resources were good things. Only those that he robbed would belong to him. As long as he left the secret realm, the strong sects would not be able to cross over and take revenge on them. Do you want to hand over your storage rings, or do you want us to kill you? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. The faces of the experts from the 4 strongest sects turned pale. They had more than 5,000 people when they came. Now, there were only 4,000 left. Even so, they were many times more than the insane sect. Now, they were robbed by Yi Qinghan and the other 2. The key was that no expert dared to resist. The rest of the insane sect did not make a move. Zhou Yi wanted to protect the weaker members of the insane sect. Otherwise, with the 4 of them, they could break up the alliance of the 4 strongest sections. The insane sect did not want to die. They could not afford to sacrifice too few people. Yi Qinghan continued to move forward. He did not care about this group of people at all. A true king of soldiers would not be afraid even in the face of thousands of enemies of the same level. Because in their eyes, anyone of the same level was just an ant. The experts of the 4 strongest sects retreated one after another, unwilling to fight against Yi Qinghan. The start-whining vine rushed out of its body and wrapped around the cliff. It kept spreading in all directions. The corpses of the experts were its favorite, especially those killed by Lin Wutian. Although their vitality was gone, they did not lose much blood. Countless vines devoured the blood and flesh of the corpses. After a while, only some withered bones were left. They were thrown off the cliff by the start-whining vine. Many experts were shocked and broke out in cold sweat. Put down all your storage rings and I'll let you leave. You have 1 incense stick's worth of time. Otherwise, I'll start a massacre. Yi Qinghan said coldly. The 4th-ranked disciple of the Crimson Water sect, Chen Wulei, stared at Yi Qinghan and quietly said, Yi Qinghan, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you defeated God Arthur. How can an uncivilized savage compare to a disciple from the Eastern Sacred Land? You want to snatch our thousands of disciples? Do you have the life to snatch them? Do you have the life to spend them? Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied indifferently, You don't have to worry about whether I'll be alive to spend it. After you snatch it, you'll know whether I'll have the chance to spend it or not. If you want to rob us, you have to at least get my permission. I really want to know if the man who used 7 breaths to suppress Arthur can use 7 breaths to suppress me. Chen Wulei quietly said. Yi Qinghan sneered and looked at Chen Wulei. He was only the 4th-ranked disciple of the Crimson Water sect. His cultivation was clearly much lower than Arthur's. He only needed 7 breaths to deal with Arthur, but he could kill him with 1 slash. Then I'll send you on your way. Boom! Yi Qinghan stomped on the mountain rocks and his long saber slashed through the void. Waves of energy spread out for thousands of miles. The world submitted to him and the order of all things changed with a single thought. Whoosh! The saber light shocked the heavens and slashed at Chenwule with the force of a thunderbolt. It was extremely imposing and carried an irresistible will as it arrived in front of Chenwule. At this moment, Chenwule was alarmed. He finally understood that the two of them weren't on the same level. His big hand grasped the hilt of his sword, but he didn't have the courage to draw it. Boom! At the last moment, Chenwule raised his sword to his side, hoping to block Yi Qinghan's saber. Whoosh! Chenwule was like a withered leaf. He was blown away by the energy and the sharp sword in his hand was cut in half. Boom! Chenwule's body crashed into a small hill, causing the rocks to shatter and his qi and blood to roll over. Yi Qinghan put away his saber in disdain and said, "If you provoke me again, the price is death. I won't say it a third time. Put down your storage rings within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn and then scram. Otherwise, I'm not sure how many of you can escape." Chenwule climbed out of the hill with great difficulty. His whole body was trembling. If Yi Qinghan hadn't held back a bit, that saber strike would have killed him. The aura of death enveloped him and caused his Dao heart to rumble. He was on the verge of going crazy. Chenwule looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. He felt a pressure that he couldn't even feel from the chief disciple of the Crimson Water sect. He didn't dare to resist and immediately put the storage rings on a flat ground in front of Yi Qinghan. He then turned around and fled into the distance. Yi Qinghan didn't stop him and coldly looked at the others. Although Chenwule couldn't compare to Yi Qinghan, he was still very strong compared to the others. The true experts of the strong sects had followed their chief disciples to fight for the true treasures with the sacred grounds and the 100 great clans. There were more than 4,000 people here, but none of them was a top-level existence. Since Chenwule had compromised, the others didn't dare to resist. They all handed over their storage rings and quickly left. Each of them handed over 3 to 5 storage rings. A small hill quickly piled up in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and put all the storage rings into his sleeve. The 4 experts originally wanted to rob Yi Qinghan, but unfortunately, he was robbed by 3 other people. Their expressions turned ugly and they didn't want to mention this matter again. If this matter was spread out, the 4 sects would become the laughingstock of many other sects and sacred grounds. The insane sects people watched the strong sects leave and quickly rush towards the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. A doubt lingered in Yi Qinghan's mind. Where did the 4 lower realm experts of the 4 sects go? Zhou Yi was also a little uneasy. He was not afraid of the enemies in front of him, but he was afraid of the hidden enemies. Will they take a detour to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave to stop us? That's the place we must pass to enter the hinterland. Zhou Yi reminded vigilantly. Yi Qinghan wasn't sure. At this moment, he was thinking about the strength of the insane sects people. Could they resist the encirclement of the lower realm experts of the 4 sects? Zhou Yi can deal with one, and I can deal with one with the Rui Bell. But the lower realm is the lower realm after all. They are from a strong sect. Even if Wu Tian and Jing Tian join forces, it's impossible to deal with a lower realm expert of a strong sect. Yi Qinghan frowned and thought. If the other party was really waiting there, they could only use the blood power elixir and blood-boosting saint elixir. However, using those things would leave them exhausted for several days. If they entered the hinterland again, it would be too dangerous. Senior, if you and I join forces to launch a sneak attack, can we kill a lower realm expert of a strong sect in an instant? Yi Qinghan asked in a serious voice. Zhou Yi thought for a moment and said with some uncertainty, I don't know how much help you can provide. I can't be sure. If we kill a lower realm expert in an instant, with our group, we can fight against 3 lower realm experts. Yi Qinghan nodded and had a general understanding. He said, let's go to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. The worst-case scenario is to use the blood-boosting saint elixir and blood power elixir. The group sped up. With the help of the giant mantis, it was unknown who would win or lose. In the end, it was also unknown who would rob who. Chapter 1830. The Arcana land was like spring all year round. The mountains stretched on, the willows were green, and the flowers were red. Celestial chi filled the sky, and the sun shone brightly. Roar! some ferocious beasts traversed the mountaintops. Even if they could not fly, they could still traverse thousands of meters in the mountains and valleys. Their limbs were thick and strong, and they were stronger and more ferocious than human lower plane cultivators. It was common to see some terrifying ferocious beasts destroying small sections. Even the lower plane cultivators could not escape. The crazy sect was especially vigilant. They were lucky now. Perhaps it was because there were not many of them, but few lower plane ferocious beasts targeted them. "Brother Yi, can you help us catch a lower plane ferocious beast as a mount?" Wu Qing was envious of the giant praying mantis. She stuck out her tongue and asked. Yi Qinghan shrugged, indicating that he could not help. It was a coincidence that he could use the Rui Bell to suppress the giant praying mantis. If he wanted to suppress a powerful lower plane ferocious beast, he would be injured even if he did not die. Yi Qinghan looked at Wu Qing's disappointed expression and said softly, "If there's a chance, we can bring the ferocious beasts out. It would be great if we could catch a middle plane ferocious beast." The couple was right in front of him, but Yi Qinghan didn't know that Wu Qing was Emperor Ye's reincarnation. Otherwise, he would have gotten her a mid-level ferocious beast as her guardian beast even if he had to die in battle. The group chatted as they harvested divine herbs. Occasionally, they would come across small sects and clans that were wiped out by ferocious beasts. They would bury them and make a fortune out of the dead. In order to build a strong sect, it was impossible to do so without tens of billions of assets. Along the way, Yi Qinghan tortured the gold-devouring toad to the brink of death before releasing it. The gold-devouring toad was quite intelligent. With a few words from the divine bird, its brain was filled with paste. Its intelligence was different, so it suppressed the gold-devouring toad. In the end, it did not even have the will to resist and followed Yi Qinghan wholeheartedly. The Chaos Beast and the gold-devouring toad had similar functions. However, the Chaos Beast's bloodline level was much lower than the gold-devouring toad's. It was like one was a professional and the other was an amateur. In front of the gold-devouring toad, the Chaos Beast, the gold-devouring toad's life. With the help of the gold-devouring toad, Yi Qinghan was confident that he could make a fortune in this secret realm. "If we encounter any small sects in the future, don't kill or rob them. We need people to mine," Yi Qinghan reminded. "Understood." Everyone was quite happy and excited. Yi Qian Zhou and the giant mantis, Zhou Yi and the giant mantis. They were met Yi and the gold day divine they. The purple gold tiger king was incomparably huge. It was as huge as an elephant. Its 4 limbs were thick and strong, and with a swing of its claws, it could break a mountain. Its movements were nimble and vigorous, and it could climb mountains as if it was walking on flat ground. Yi Qinghan sat alone on the back of the gold-devouring tiger. The divine bird tried to persuade the Tiger King to become its underling several times, but to no avail. How could the proud Tiger King submit to a rookie little bird? The gold-devouring tiger's roar shook the mountains and rivers. Thousands of beasts submitted to it. The Tiger King brought Yi Qinghan and quickly rushed towards the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. Along the way, they subdued another huge male lion. There was no need for anyone else to make a move. Yi Qinghan cooperated with the purple gold Tiger King to suppress it. The Lion King's body was golden. Under the sun, the golden light was even more intense. The Lion King became Lin Wutian's mount. The 3 lower realm giant beasts led less than 30 people from the Kuang sect to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave. Even if the other party really intercepted them there were only 4 lower realm giant beasts and 2 giant beasts. On the Kuang sect's side, there were 3 lower realm giant beasts. In addition to Zhou Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian, the others joined forces to deal with 1 lower realm giant beast. It was enough to crush them. The rainbow light above the 9 Immortals' cloud cave covered the mountains and rivers. It penetrated the 9 heavens and was within reach. Yi Qinghan rode the gold-devouring tiger and rushed to the 9 Immortals' cloud cave with his bare hands. Against a lower realm giant beast, the 7-foot berserker was useless. The most important thing was the Rui Bell. The canyon was curved. When it reached the 9 Immortals' cloud cave, it turned east. Statues bathed in the evening sun, majestic and solemn. From afar, the space was distorted as if the statues were moving. Yi Qinghan looked at the statues and was suddenly shocked. He quickly called Lin Wutian to the front and whispered, "Look at the moves of those statues. Why do they look so familiar?" After Lin Wutian saw it, his eyes flashed. He suddenly rushed to the sky and waved his long sword on the mountain peak. It was exactly the same as the sword moves of the statues. This was a sword move that evolved in the underground palace. It was this sword move that made Lin Wutian transform into an existence that killed Yega Saint with one sword move. This statue was created by the expert who killed the eternal sovereign in the underground palace? Yi Qinghan squinted and said to himself in shock. Except for Lin Wutian, no one knew what happened in the underground palace. However, Gu Qingyu and the other sword experts understood this sword move. After all, Lin Wutian taught them without reservation. Even if their talent was not as good as Lin Wutian, when Lin Wutian used it again, they were suddenly enlightened. They waved their divine swords and the sword rainbow tore the sky. Woo woo woo. Sword chi stirred up the raging wind, especially Lin Wutian, who almost soared into the sky. Every sword move had an irreversible sword momentum. The speed was getting faster and faster. He was almost a lower realm expert. He was only half a step away from breaking through. Yi Qinghan was not surprised but happy. He hoped that Lin Wutian could surpass his master. Since childhood, he had treated Lin Wutian like his own son. If Lin Wutian could become an eternal sovereign, he would definitely support him. Zhou Yi looked at Lin Wutian, Gu Qingyu, and the others in shock. The momentum of Mu Zhuang's life source wooden sword did not lose to the other experts. He could not help but say in amazement, "Where did you find so many sword experts? Lin Wutian, this child, must be the most talented among you. He may be the first to step into the lower realm." Yi Qinghan smiled happily and said, "Most of these people were acquainted with me when I was very young. We fought side by side and grew up together. Especially Wutian, I watched him grow up. If he is the first to reach the lower realm, I will be very happy." A group of monsters. You have the foundation to become a strong sect. Zhou Yi had to admit that this group of people could create a powerful sect, and even give birth to a holy land. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he stared at Lin Wutian and the others who were waving their swords. In his heart, he wanted to win over Zhou Yi. Although he was a peak lower realm expert, his talent was not bad. It was easy for him to reach the middle realm. There was also a certain possibility for him to reach the upper realm. "Senior Zhou, why don't you join the crazy sect and become its great elder? Watching a strong sect grow up is much more interesting than being a rogue cultivator." Yi Qinghan asked expectantly. Chapter 1831. Zhou Yi smiled. He was used to being idle and had no interest in being a supreme elder. However, seeing that the Kuang sect had the capital to become a sacred land, he was tempted. "Let me think about it." Zhou Yi stared at Lin Wutian's back. In fact, he was most optimistic about Lin Wutian's talent. This kind of person had unlimited potential and was too terrifying. Once he was targeted by a true expert of the younger generation, the Kuang sect would suffer a devastating blow. Zhou Yi was experienced and knowledgeable. He also understood the rules of the great world. The Kuang sect's future victory was because of Lin Wutian, and its destruction might also be because of him. If he followed the Kuang sect, he would either become an upper realm that he could never reach in his lifetime or be implicated and die tragically. Yi Qinghan saw that Zhou Yi didn't directly refuse and understood. He didn't continue to ask. At this moment, Lin Wutian's sword force had exceeded the limit of the 9th layer of the Sector Lord Realm. A wisp of sword chi could cut through rocks and ancient trees 100 meters away. Boom. Hum. A sword broke through the 9 heavens, and everything in the 10 directions bowed down. Boom. Lin Wutian's sword pierced out, and his aura soared. He officially broke through the 9th layer of the Sector Lord Realm and entered the lower realm. It gave people an irresistible aura. Even Zhou Yi, a veteran lower realm expert, felt a little frightened. It was as if he would die if Lin Wutian attacked. Yi Qinghan excitedly clenched his fist. The Kuang sect finally had a lower realm expert of their own. Li Feng, Gu Qingyu, Mu Zhuang and the others' sword techniques were similar to Lin Wutian's, but they still lacked the essence. This was where Lin Wutian's talent lay. 1. Hummed just as Lin Wutian broke through, the melody of heaven and earth resounded. It was as if the sword was singing, and the heaven and earth were singing. The sword trembled, and a green lotus appeared. It carried a monstrous majesty. The sword pierced out, and the green lotus stepped on the heavenly song, wanting to destroy all enemies. No one could stop it. Boom! Gu Qingyu, Li Feng and the others couldn't control their swords anymore. They all flew out of their hands. Thousand Swords Imperial Greeting. Hua! Fortunately, Lin Wutian's control wasn't too strong. Otherwise, he would have alerted the 9 Immortals' Cloud Cave. Yi Qinghan and the others were dumbfounded. This kind of sword technique was beyond the realm of nature. Presumably, after so many years, no one could comprehend the sword technique of these statues. Only a monstrous genius like Lin Wutian could reach this level. Gu Qingyu grinned. Being surpassed by his own disciple, he actually felt indescribably happy. To be able to teach such a disciple in his lifetime, he should be perfectly satisfied. The other kendo masters were not jealous. The Kuang sect was like a family. It was a good thing for any one of them to achieve a breakthrough. With one more lower-level cultivator, their chances of survival in the Arcana territory would be greater. Lin Wutian stepped on the leaves and danced around the mountains and rivers. His speed became faster and faster, almost surpassing the laws of heaven and earth. He was no longer suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth and could fly. Gu Qingyu and the others were all stunned. Lin Wutian was dancing with the rhythm of the heavenly song. The sword light carried a wisp of green light. The green lotus could suppress everything. In the blink of an eye, it flattened a mountain. It was unstoppable. The swords in everyone's hands rose into the air as if they were facing the Emperor of Swords. It was as if they were facing the Emperor of Swords. Although Zhou Yi was an expert at the peak of the lower level, he had completely lost control at this moment. He felt that if Lin Wutian's sword were to stab him, there would be no chance for him to dodge. Heaven and earth are long, my heart is tied to it. Sword Dao is heavy, my heart is stirred. Green Lotus Sword Song, dancing casually. Exterminating mountains and rivers, annihilating all enemies. Lin Wutian danced with the Green Lotus and actually sang along with the melody. The sword power became even sharper and more soul-stealing. Gu Qingyu was intoxicated. Especially at the end, he was suddenly enlightened. His big hand subconsciously reached for his divine sword. The divine sword whistled and broke free from the control of Lin Wutian's sword Dao. It directly returned to his hand. The solitary sword Dao's power soared into the sky and merged with the Green Lotus Sword Song, forming an even sharper and colder sword move. There was a certain difference between the sword power in Lin Wutian's hand. It's less smooth and flowing, but more sharp and colder. Zhou Yi's big hand was trembling. He was completely stunned by the 2 sword Dao monsters. If Gu Qingyu could break through to the lower level, he might not be worse than Lin Wutian. He might even be able to win. After all, Lin Wutian's fighting skills were not as good as Gu Qingyu's. Gu Qingyu's speed was getting faster and faster, and his sword Dao power was getting more and more arrogant. The solitary sword Dao had an additional aura of the Green Lotus Sword Song. The combination of the 2 sword powers was almost heaven-defying. Yi Qinghan couldn't stop smiling. He wished that all his brothers could break through. It didn't matter if he was the strongest or not. There was no need to be jealous. His Dao would go further and higher sooner or later. He didn't cultivate sword Dao. If he changed to the Green Lotus Sword Song now, his Dao would stagnate behind his predecessors. He would never be able to surpass the creator of the Green Lotus Sword Song. He might even be inferior to Lin Wutian and Gu Qingyu. Therefore, no matter how powerful the Green Lotus Sword Song was, he didn't want to cultivate it. Wu Qin and Wu Sheng looked at the atmosphere of the Kuang sect and felt that it was somewhat familiar. Lightning kept flashing in their sea of consciousness. They could tear apart that memory, but it was like an insurmountable gap. It's so familiar. Wu Qin and Wu Xing said in unison. What's so familiar? Jian Chenxue asked with a smile. This situation is so familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Wu Qing, the reincarnation of Emperor Yi, said doubtfully. Jian Chenxue couldn't imagine that Wu Qin was the reincarnation of Emperor Yi. Therefore, he didn't suspect anything. He just patted Wu Qin's head and gently reminded her, look at the sword moves first. This is the performance of several sword Dao experts of the Kuang sect. If you can comprehend 2 or 3 moves, you will benefit immensely. Lin Wutian gradually stopped. However, Mu Zhuang, Li Feng, Gu Qingyu, and the others danced faster and faster. However, they were still stuck in front of the lower realm and couldn't break through. Yi Qinghan's fingertips twitched. With a wave of his hand, he retrieved a guqin from his heaven and earth sleeve. This was a guqin that he had specially crafted for her. Even though Ren Huangyi was no longer around, he had subconsciously crafted a divine guqin for her. In the past, Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan's minds were connected. Emperor Yi comprehended the guqin Dao, so Yi Qinghan knew all of it. Guqin music could stimulate the qi and blood of heroes and help them to break through. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the purple gold Tiger King's back. He held the guqin and gently plucked the strings. The guqin music was solemn and stirred up the qi and blood of Gu Qingyu and the others. The music kept rising and roaring. Gu Qingyu and the others' sword aura suddenly increased several times. They danced with the music and became more flexible. However, the one who changed the most was Wu Qin. She looked at Yi Qinghan playing the guqin. Her tears couldn't stop flowing. She felt inexplicably sad. However, she didn't understand why she was so sad and why she felt so emotional. Wu Xing'er was fine. After all, her most beautiful memory with Yi Qinghan wasn't playing the guqin. I think I know how to play the guqin, but I haven't learned it. Wu Qing'er muttered to herself. After saying that, Wu Qing'er subconsciously moved closer to Yi Qinghan. Her eyes were lifeless. Everything fell silent, immersed in the guqin Dao. No one wanted to disturb this sound of nature. Wu Qing'er took advantage of the moment when everyone was distracted. She jumped onto the purple gold Tiger King's back and came behind Yi Qinghan. She reached out and pressed the strings. Yi Qinghan was stunned. The music stopped abruptly. However, Wu Qing'er's slender fingers continued plucking the strings. The melody was even more pleasant than Yi Qinghan's. This time, it was Yi Qinghan's turn to be shocked. Wu Qing'er's subconscious actions were too similar to Emperor Ye's. Especially her side profile. Yi Qinghan's mind was filled with the image of Emperor Yi. My son. Yi Qinghan's hands were trembling. Chapter 1832. My son. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He didn't expect that the women he was looking for were Wu Qin and Wu Xing. The others were also dumbfounded. Other than Emperor Yi, who could play the guqin so beautifully. Even though Yu Qingqing was a master of guqin, she still looked at Emperor Yi in shock. She seemed to understand why Yi Qinghan wanted to play the sky quiet guqin song. With the support of Emperor Ye's music, Gu Qingyu and the others were even more relaxed. They were only half a step away from breaking through and could break free at any time. Li Feng and Mu Zhuang were both masters of swordsmanship. They were obsessed with swordsmanship and were about to break through. However, even if they broke through, they were still no match for Lin Wutian. Green Lotus Sword Song was definitely an eternal secret technique. It might even surpass the Eternal Realm. After all, the Eternal Realm corpse in the underground palace was killed by this Green Lotus Sword Song. Many small sects gathered behind them. They were slowly approaching, stunned by this sword move. They were getting closer and closer, unaware of the approaching danger. There were more and more experts around, and there were also many lower realm experts. However, none of them dared to disturb Kuang Zong's cultivation. Lin Wutian stood behind Kuang Zong with his sword, suppressing thousands of small sects and families. Boom! Gu Qingyu's sword pierced the sky with a sharp and cold sword aura. He had officially stepped into the lower realm. Hum! Gu Qingyu put away his sword and sat down cross-legged on the mountaintop. His aura was instantly restrained as he merged with the heaven and earth. He was comprehending what he had just comprehended. His sword intent was condensing and becoming purer and purer. His sword Dao was not only the Green Lotus sword song, but also the Gu sword Dao. Li Feng and Mu Zhuang were cultivating the Green Lotus sword song. Although they weren't as exaggerated as Lin Wutian, their combat power was definitely not bad. Emperor Yi was still playing the guqin. The sound of the guqin became more and more urgent and tragic. It affected their blood and qi, almost burning their lives to stimulate their potential. Whoosh! Two streaks of sword light turned into green lotuses, slashing apart the two mountains in the north and south. Their qi soared into the 9 heavens. Boom! The two of them retracted their sword auras and rushed to the lower level. They stabbed their swords into the ground and sat cross-legged on the ground to comprehend the sword Dao and condense their sword intent. In a moment, 4 lower realm masters appeared in the crazy sect. Coupled with Yi Qinghan's outburst, it was equivalent to 5 real lower realm masters. Zhou Yi did not dare to say that he was the strongest among them at this moment. Zhou Yi's eyes flashed. If he didn't join the Kuang sect now, he wouldn't be able to get a high position even if he wanted to join later. Little brat Yi, I've joined the eccentric sect. Zhou Yi clenched his iron fist and said excitedly. Yi Qinghan was even happier. This was a joyous occasion, and it wasn't just one of them. The Kuang sect now had 5 true lower plane cultivators. They had found the reincarnations of Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing. What else could make them happier than this? Ah! Yi Qinghan threw his head back and laughed heartily. He wished he could fly into the sky. The divine bird looked at Emperor Ye's reincarnation in a daze. He scratched his head with his little claw and said, "Is this the little master?" Emperor Yi got up and looked at the divine bird. He scratched his head. It seemed that he hadn't recovered much of his memory, but he had a special feeling for the divine bird. He suddenly shouted, "Ha, bitch bird, smack!" Emperor Yi slapped the divine bird's head and sent it flying. Ouch! Bang! The divine bird rolled continuously. He was smashed until his eyes were seeing stars. He got up with great difficulty and said angrily, "You little woman, you still remember this name even after reincarnating. Have I mistreated you?" Emperor Yi became more playful and less melancholy. Perhaps the happiness of his childhood had changed his temperament. At this moment he stuck out his tongue and turned to look at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were full of emotions. He reached out and hugged Yi Qinghan's neck. He said with tears in his eyes, "Husband, I'm back." Yi Qinghan hugged Emperor Ye's reincarnation tightly, afraid that she would disappear again. "I'm sorry for making you suffer." Yi Qinghan was so emotional that he shed tears. Fortunately, he was blocked by Emperor Yi. Otherwise, he would be laughed at by the people of the eccentric sect. "I didn't suffer. I'm very happy. I'm afraid Sister Shaoxing won't be able to recover her memory in a short time. If I wasn't woken up by your music, I don't know when I would recover my memory," Emperor Yi said emotionally. Yi Qinghan secretly wiped his tears and looked at Bai Shaoxing's reincarnation with a fake smile. However, she looked at her sister in confusion. She didn't know Yi Qinghan. Why did he suddenly appear as a husband? The divine bird was angry, but Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan ignored it. Everyone was silent in joy. There were too many surprises in the eccentric sect today. Congratulations, little miss. Lin Wutian was also happy, but he didn't call her master's wife. Instead, he called her Lil Miss. In his heart, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were the parents who raised him. "Wutian, I didn't expect you to grow to this point. You've surpassed your 2 masters. Not bad, not bad. Don't feel burdened. Your 2 masters won't be jealous of you. If you become an immortal, we'll be even happier." Emperor Yi said happily. "Miss, I'll work hard." Lin Wutian replied happily, like a child who was praised by his parents. After a while, Gu Qingyu woke up. He retracted his aura and looked at Lin Wutian with a dignified face. He patted his shoulder and said in a deep voice, "My good disciple, I have no regrets in this life." Master. Lin Wutian was very grateful to Gu Qingyu. He was his true guide. He wasn't his biological father. We don't have so much nonsense. During this time, Thanks to you, we reached the lower realm. Gu Qingyu said straightforwardly. Li Feng and Mu Zhuang stood up and laughed. As martial uncles, we actually broke through with the help of our eldest nephew. We're ashamed. Haha, Yi Qinghan said with a gratified expression. We're a family, there's no need to be so polite. No matter where we go, we have to remember that we're from the chaotic small world. We fought side by side to get here. That's enough. Everyone nodded. Their relationship couldn't be destroyed by interests. They were really as close as brothers and sons. Let's go. There may be enemies waiting for us in the 9th Immortal Cloud Cave. Let's clean them up and then celebrate. Yi Qinghan roared and rode the purple gold tiger king to the front. The divine bird was furious and cursed. You're a man who values love more than friends. I'm so angry. Jian Chenshue, who wasn't good at laughing, laughed. The divine bird was miserable when it saw Emperor Yi. It was bullied every time. The key was that Yi Qinghan didn't help it. First, madam, are you going to take care of your sister? I don't want to live anymore. Damn it, no one is helping me. The divine bird ran to Jian Chenshue and said pitifully. She just returned to her position. You have to bear with it. Jian Chenshue said with a smile. The divine bird was speechless. Boom, boom. The group of people talked and laughed as they went straight to the 9th Immortal Cloud Cave. Bathed in the light, the solemn and dignified statues were even more majestic and spectacular. Chapter 1833. Yi Qinghan hugged Emperor Yi as they sat on the back of the Tiger King. They were glued to each other like glue. This was a reunion after a long separation. Despite the distance between life and death, their reunion was actually so heartwarming. Emperor Ye's face was full of joy and happiness. He couldn't wait to be in Yi Qinghan's arms. By Xiaosheng's reincarnation, the golden-bodied martial saint had an unhappy expression on her face. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi didn't explain anything either, leaving her completely confused. Tell me, how did you two meet? My sister and I are together every day. How come I don't know you are my husband? Wu Sheng begged Yi Qinghan in a pitiful manner. Wu Sheng hadn't recovered her memories yet, so Yi Qinghan didn't dare to do anything out of line. However, he still replied with a doting expression, Sheng, you will understand in the future. Even if I explain now, you won't understand. But you still have to explain. I feel like you are lying to my sister. If you don't explain, I will go back and tell my father that you kidnapped the saintess. I will beat you until your legs can't touch the ground. Wu Sheng said angrily. Emperor Yi covered his mouth and laughed secretly. He laughed so hard that he was trembling. The sky changed color, and a bright moon appeared in the sky, releasing an even brighter radiance. Elder sister, we are both reincarnated golden bodies. I have recovered my memories from my previous life, but you have not. Once you recover, you will understand. You will definitely not allow father to hit him. Emperor Yi snickered. Is that so? I was wondering why I was getting more and more familiar with him. This guy is not a good person. He must have killed me in my previous life. Look at his sinister smile, he must be up to no good. Sister, you have to be careful. Wu Sheng stared at Yi Qinghan's smiling face and said seriously. Everyone laughed. Yi Qinghan was speechless. The woman who loved him the most back then was so guarded against him in this life. Miss Xiaosheng, you're right. I know this guy the best. He really isn't a good person. Gu Qingyu laughed loudly. It was the first time he laughed so loudly. Everyone was curious. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He ignored the mockery and increased his speed. Even though the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave was right in front of them, they still had to run for most of the night to reach it. The statue was even more majestic. Auspicious clouds surrounded this place, as if an immortal was standing in the sky. Countless gloomy lights flickered about, but the 9 large holes at the center shone with radiance. These should be life holes that could be pierced through, allowing one to reach the center after passing through. It didn't seem like much, but experts had special senses, especially the ability to sense danger. They were especially sensitive. Come out. The lower realm experts of the 4 major sects have joined forces. Do you still want to launch a sneak attack? Zhou Yi said indifferently. Boom. His voice reverberated throughout the canyon for a long time. Zhang Shaoshan, He Shuihen, and the other experts walked out of the cave and stared at Yi Qinghan with gloomy faces. They didn't care that the insane sect already had 4 lower realm experts. Yi Qinghan killed Zhang Shaoshan's mount. Qi Shuihen's mount's wings were pierced, and now it couldn't fly. These two hated Yi Qinghan the most, and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Yi Qinghan shrugged indifferently. He hugged Emperor Yi, and behind him stood Wuxing. The two saintesses were as beautiful as fairies, and their temperament was extraordinary. It was enviable. Yi Qinghan, how dare you? You dare to provoke me? You must be tired of living. Qi Shuihen said coldly. Hand over the gold-devouring toad and jump off the cliff. Then I'll spare your insane sect. Zhang Shaoshan was even more domineering. He drew his sword and walked over. Long Lu of Longhu Mountain and practitioner Shi Shui of the Demon Dragon sect looked at Yi Qinghan with murderous intent. Yi Qinghan sneered. He didn't even try to defend himself. Instead, he said domineeringly, "For great sect masters, will you surrender or choose death?" Zhang Shaoshan took the lead and laughed. He looked at the people of the insane sect with disdain. However, when he glanced at Lin Wutian, Gu Qingyu, and the others, he was stunned. He didn't expect the insane sect to have 4 lower realm experts in such a short time. Moreover, each of them gave him a sense of crisis. Boom! Gu Qingyu, Lin Wutian, Li Feng, and Mu Zhuang stepped forward. The giant mantis and the Lion King crushed the mountain and looked down at them. If you win against the 4 of them, I'll let you leave. If you lose, you can either surrender and help me mine a 1,000-year-old mine, or die. There's no third choice. You can't escape. Yi Qinghan sat on the purple gold Tiger King's back and said domineeringly. His voice was deep and low, with the aura of an emperor. It made people unable to look at him directly. The 4 of them were experts of the lower realm. At this moment, the corners of their mouths were twitching. They couldn't stand Yi Qinghan's contempt. I'll go first. I don't believe that a newly advanced lower realm expert can compete with me. Practitioner Shi Shui smiled coldly. Among the 4 of them, he was the most terrifying. He had killed countless people and emitted a cold aura. Yi Qinghan looked at Lin Wutian indifferently and said, "Let's go and ask the senior for advice. Give him a chance to surrender. I need people to mine." Lin Wutian nodded. His domineering aura soared. His confidence made people despair. Practitioner Shi Shui sneered. Many middle realm experts didn't dare to provoke him. A lower realm expert dared to talk to him like this. He was courting death. A scroll appeared in Practitioner Shi Shui's hand. When he pulled it, it gave people a feeling that it could swallow mountains and rivers. Hummed at the rhythm of heaven and earth sounded. Lin Wutian turned into a green lotus and stepped on the sword song. The scroll of heaven and earth pierced through the sky with a thunderous force. Boom boom boom. In an instant, the color of heaven and earth changed. Dark clouds covered the sky and the auspicious clouds disappeared. It was as if the immortals were hiding. Practitioner Shi Shui's vision blurred. Before he could display the power of the scroll in his hand, he felt a chill on his neck. A divine sword was already on his neck. Just as Yi Qinghan said, he was given a chance to surrender. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have the chance to speak. This was the gap between an absolute saint and an ordinary king. Surrender or die. Yi Qinghan looked down at Practitioner Shi Shui silently. His voice was like the sound of a bell from the end of time, striking people's hearts. Practitioner Shi Shui's hand trembled. The scroll in his hand fell to the ground like an ordinary object. The difference was too great. If Lin Wutian didn't give him a chance to resist, he wouldn't have the chance to attack. Gulp. Practitioner Shi Shui felt the cold blade on his neck. He didn't dare to move. He said hoarsely, surrender. Mr. Yi, please spare my life. Win, seal his soul. As long as he stays obedient for 1,000 years and leaves the secret territory, he can leave. Yi Qinghan said calmly. Hummed at the sword in Lin Wutian's hand whistled. A wisp of invisible sword chi entered Practitioner Shi Shui's mind. If he dared to act recklessly, Lin Wutian could destroy his soul with a thought. He would never have the chance to reincarnate. Swords have no eyes. Do the three of you want to test it out? However, I can't guarantee that the others will be able to use their swords freely and give you a chance to surrender, Yi Qinghan said calmly. The three lower realms broke out in cold sweat, especially Zhang Shaoxun. He was confident that he could compete with the strongest of the younger generation in the various holy lands. However, when he saw Lin Wutian, he despaired. Lin Wutian was comparable to a saint. He was just a second-rate fighter. Chapter 1834. Zhang Shaoxun didn't want to give up. If he didn't even dare to fight now, how would he have the face to climb to the top? How would he have the face to fight for the throne? Ka. Zhang Shaoxun gripped the divine sword, his large hand gripping the hilt as he grunted, "Please enlighten me." In terms of cultivation, Zhang Shaoxun wasn't the weakest among the four, but he was the youngest. His combat power and talent weren't bad, and he would be a first-class expert in any sect. However, he was facing a one-in-a-million monster like Lin Wutian. His Dao heart was almost pierced by this sword. "Let me." Gu Qingyu stepped forward, holding the divine sword in his hand. His aura was sharp and murderous, suppressing the enemy's will. Zhang Shaoxun felt the majestic pressure. He held the divine sword tightly and slowly pulled it out. The sword light was dazzling. Gu Qingyu pulled out the sword, and the sword whistled through the sky. His cold sword Dao merged with the green lotus sword song, creating a different kind of power. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh! The sword light tore through the sky, and the opponent couldn't open his eyes. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Zhang Shaoxun's sword swept through the sky, trying to force Gu Qingyu back to protect himself. However, he underestimated Gu Qingyu. He attacked Zhang Shaoxun's sword with an even more powerful attack, suppressing his opponent with an absolute advantage. Boom! Zhang Shaoxun was forced to retreat. His sword art wasn't weak, but in front of the green lotus sword song, he didn't even deserve to carry his shoes. The eternal art was the eternal art. Apart from the eternal divine art of the same level, no one in the same realm could resist it. Every time Zhang Shaoxun attacked, he was intercepted and couldn't exert any power. The two fought fiercely, but Gu Qingyu didn't want to kill him. He only wanted to suppress him. After all, the insane sect needed him to mine. The two fought for 2 incense sticks worth of time. Zhang Shaoxun gave up resisting in despair. There was no chance for him to escape. If they continued fighting, he couldn't guarantee that Gu Qingyu would have the energy to use it freely. "I lost. Do you really only want me to mine for 1,000 years? Zhang Shaoxun smiled bitterly. If he was enslaved for a lifetime, he would rather die. The dignity of an expert wouldn't let him become someone's slave. 8,000 years later, if you want to follow the Guangzong, I'll have to think twice, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Long Lu wasn't interested in fighting anymore. Gu Qingyu and Lin Wutian alone could crush him. As for Li Feng and Mu Zhuang's cultivation level, he wasn't interested in testing them. If he was killed, then he would suffer a great loss. 1,000 years was just a chance to gain experience. If he lost it, then so be it. His life was the most important thing. Therefore, he was the most straightforward and directly surrendered. Qi Shuihan was indignant as he shouted, "Yi Qinghan, fight me if you have the guts." Qi Shuihan did not want to lose to the rest of the Kuang sect. After all, Yi Qinghan was the sect master of the Kuang sect. If he were to lose, he would not have the face to talk about it in the future. If he were to lose to the rest of the Kuang sect or the younger generation of the Kuang sect, he would lose all face. Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he stared coldly at Qi Shuihan. "Say that again." Qi Shuihan's heart suddenly stopped. He was frightened by Yi Qinghan's stare. He didn't know what Yi Qinghan wanted to do, so he didn't dare to say another word. "I'm giving you a chance to live. Don't refuse it. You want to win against me? Beat my disciple first." Yi Qinghan warned. "Don't try to challenge my bottom line. I cultivate killing techniques. If you want to die, I can fulfill your wish." Qi Shuihan didn't dare to say anything after being reprimanded. He could only choose to surrender. The four masters had ambushed the Kuang sect, but they were subdued instead. The thousands of small sects behind the Kuang sect were stunned. They quickly distanced themselves from the Kuang sect. Although there were only 20 of them, each of them had a fighting strength that made people despair. Gather all the disciples of your powerful sections. The more the merrier. Mine for me and I'll pay you. 1,000th of the ores you excavate will be your own salary. Don't even think about keeping it for yourself. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer. Yi Qinghan ordered. The 4 masters had been subdued and didn't dare to refute. They all went to the back to gather their disciples. Come, the Kuang sect is recruiting miners. We'll take 5 days off and 2 days off. The rest of the time can be used to search for divine herbs. We'll provide you with protection. At least you can keep your lives. Don't take any chances. If you want to gain something and there's no danger, come in mine. The people of the Kuang sect spread out and tried to persuade the small sections. The small sects were weak, but they had a lot of people. Mining was still possible. Many weak sects were tempted. After all, the mystery land was a mystery land. It was too dangerous. With so many masters from the Kuang sect protecting them, their safety was definitely not a problem. We have the gold-devouring toad here. I guarantee that you can excavate countless ores in 1,000 years. As for the divine herbs you find during the rest of the time, we don't want them. You'll definitely get more benefits than searching alone. It's also safe. If you want to sign up, come to me. Once we have enough people, you won't have the chance to sign up. Huang Ping shouted. There's also this divine bird. I'm a treasure hunter. As long as you recognize me as your boss, there will be plenty of divine herbs above the 15th grade. The divine bird was also excited and encouraged the small sects around. More and more small sects gathered. Some lower realm masters thought for a moment and decided to follow the Kuang sect. Otherwise, if they died, their sects would inevitably collapse. After a while, hundreds of lower realm masters from small sects ran to Huang Ping to sign up. The other people from the strong sects helped to record, including Jian Chenshua. The 9 Immortals Cloud Cave was the only way to enter the hinterland. More and more people gathered. However, there were only a few people from the strong sections. After all, the strong sects were in front. Most of them had already entered the hinterland. Some small sects who did not know the situation saw that the strong sects were following Yi Qinghan to excavate ores and signed up. After a few days, there were more than 20,000 people in the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave. Yi Qinghan looked around and felt that it was about time. He took the 20,000 people with him. After passing through the 9 Immortals Cloud Cave, the hinterland was filled with spiritual qi. The gold-devouring toad became active and kept sending soul waves to Yi Qinghan. Many upper-grade ores were hidden deep in the mountains. Normally, they would not be discovered. However, the gold-devouring toad had a special sense. We only want ores above the 15th grade. It's best if it's 16th grade. 1,000 years is too short. We'll take as much as we can, Yi Qinghan said excitedly. The gold-devouring toad took Yi Qinghan to a barren mountain. From the outside, there was nothing special about it. There weren't even many spirit grasses, so it wouldn't attract the attention of others. The gold-devouring toad was sure that there were ores here. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and mobilized the masters of the Redwater sect to excavate the ores. However, he asked the hundreds of disciples from the Tai Lai sect to supervise each other. This could prevent people from hiding the ores. Boom, boom, boom. Thousands of masters excavated the ores at the same time. The mountain above was razed to the ground in an instant, revealing some purple gold ores that were emitting spiritual qi. They were definitely iron ores above the 15th grade. They were the best materials to forge pseudo-sacred artifacts. Chapter 1835. After the first vein was excavated, Yi Qinghan quickly led the gold-devouring toad to look for other veins. They basically circled around one point and did not disperse. The main reason was that they were afraid that other strong sects would come and rob them. There were 10 veins, and on average, each vein was surrounded by more than 2,000 people. The mining speed was not fast. After all, veins of 5th grade and above were very difficult to mine. Without good equipment, one could only sigh. The advantage was that there were more people. Yi Qinghan personally led the mining. Countless resources were excavated. Some were whole, and Yi Qinghan was responsible for dividing and cutting them. The people of the insane sect were responsible for recording. Although the small sects were working hard, they were smiling happily. This was real faith money. They could get hundreds of faith money just by digging out a piece of material. Was there any faster way to make money? We're rich. There's a big piece of 5th grade refined gold. It's the material used to make faith money. It's rare outside and priceless. There's at least 3,000 pounds here. A small sect's lower realm experts suddenly laughed. The appearance of mineral resources could stir up the atmosphere of the crowd. The insane sect was responsible for collecting the goods. Everyone's face was full of smiles. The insane sect's road to becoming a strong sect was getting wider and closer. The divine bird was lazy to mine. It thought that this was a lowly job. It wandered around with the star-twining vine in search of precious materials. The sect's experts who were on their day off were also scattered around to search for resources. This was an extra income. The 4 lower realm experts of the insane sect were responsible for guarding. They wandered around, and once experts approached, they would draw their swords and warn them. They were even more powerful than the strong sections. After everything was on the right track, Yi Qinghan lived a comfortable life as a contractor. He smiled as he watched the crowd mining. Occasionally, he would help to break down materials that could not be divided. Emperor Yi and Bai Xiaosheng's reincarnations wandered around. They did not know how to mine. They came here to play. They were overjoyed when they saw the resources coming in one by one. The divine bird had already wandered to the periphery with the rainbow snake and the star-twining vine. They had brought hundreds of storage rings with them, and at this moment, several of them were already filled. With the divine bird leading the way, it would be difficult for them to not reap a bountiful harvest. On a cliff, the star-twining vine was entrenched at the top of the cliff. Its vines had already extended out a few thousand meters and were constantly twining around the saint herbs at the bottom of the cliff. The multicolored snake was also swallowing the poisonous substances along the vines. These 3 fellows were very powerful. They swallowed countless saint herbs and grew very quickly. They had already reached the 9th level of the Sector Lord realm. The divine bird had also reached the 8th level of the Sector Lord realm. This mystic realm is too awesome. One day, I'm going to take it for my own use. The divine bird laughed arrogantly. Whoosh 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 that the vines danced and cooperated with the god bird, devouring creatures with strong spirituality and spirit herbs. The vines were tough and powerful. Each vine could erupt with strength comparable to a Sector Lord level 7 or 8. When countless vines surrounded a Sector Lord level 9, it was basically instant death. The 3 divine beasts approached an active volcano. Although the temperature was scorching, it was filled with spirituality. The rainbow snake was of the cold attribute and didn't want to get close to the active volcano. However, it couldn't stand the divine bird's presence. The volcano was filled with fire elements. The divine bird was very happy. Its eyes flickered as it looked around. It felt that there was a fire attribute treasure nearby, but it didn't dare to get too close because it knew that there was definitely a fire attribute beast here. Cough cough, there must be treasures here. Rainbow snake, why don't you go in and take a look? The divine bird suggested. The rainbow snake rolled its eyes at the divine bird. Wasn't it an idiot to let a cold attribute snake go into the volcano? Star-twining vine, you go? The star-twining vine swung its vines fiercely to express its dissatisfaction. It was a plant-type creature. How could it enter the volcano? The divine bird flapped its wings helplessly and tried to fly into the volcano. Suddenly, the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Flames filled the sky and transformed into a fire dragon. It opened its mouth and charged towards the divine bird. The divine bird was shocked. It flapped its wings and turned to escape. However, the rainbow snake and the star-twining vine were already hundreds of meters away. They couldn't care less about the divine bird. You 2 ungrateful bastards. How dare you abandon your boss? The divine bird screamed angrily. We learned it from you. The star-twining vine and the rainbow snake said in unison. They mobilized their soul waves and swung backwards. Boom! The fire dragon rushed out of the volcano. Magma soared into the sky. The fire burned the surrounding rocks. There were no longer any plants or creatures around. All that was left were bare magma rocks. The divine bird was so frightened that it cried out loudly. It rushed towards the periphery and finally caught up with the star-twining vine. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The star-twining vine flung a vine several thousand meters away and wrapped around another mountain peak. Chapter 1837. The divine bird was frightened by the flames in Yi Qinghan's eyes. It quickly said flatteringly, "Boss, if you don't want it, I don't want it. Please don't be angry." "Oh, that's the 16th grade real dragon fire marrow. If you want it, I'll give you half of it," Yi Qinghan said calmly. The divine bird heard this and trembled. It quickly shook its head and replied flatteringly, "Boss, please don't tease me. I don't have the fortune to enjoy 16th grade real dragon fire marrow." "Then go back," Yi Qinghan replied faintly. After that, Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took the little golden crow out of the cave. He turned around and stepped 100 meters away. The surrounding temperature dropped instead of rising. Who said that the Great Path was invisible? When the real Great Path appeared, the sky fell and the earth cracked. It was visible to the naked eye. Yi Qinghan stepped on the back of the purple gold tiger king. The purple gold tiger king felt the terrifying pressure and knelt down with a bang. "Go back," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. It was filled with a destructive will. The purple gold tiger king did not dare to disobey. The tiger king stepped on the rocks and rushed into the distance. It was as fast as lightning and turned into a golden light. At this moment, the crazy sect led the group of people to mine in batches. The 10 mineral veins were all excavated. In total, they dug out hundreds of millions of 15th grade resources. The 16th grade resources were rarer, only a few tons. As for the 14th grade resources, they were all given to the disciples of the other small and strong sections. As the saying goes, if you eat meat, you should at least share some soup with others. Otherwise, who would be willing to work for you? Yi Qinghan was not stingy. There were at least hundreds of millions of tons of 14th grade resources. Even if they were to be divided equally among the 20,000 people, it would not be a small amount. After Yi Qinghan returned, he took all the resources and led hundreds of people from the small sects and the 4 strong sects into the distance. Not every place had mineral veins. After excavating that place, Yi Qinghan and the others had not found a good mineral vein after traveling for tens of thousands of miles. They could only continue to go deeper. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the beasts were. Lower-grade beasts could be seen everywhere. If a middle-grade beast became angry, the 20,000 people would not be able to survive. At this time, the people they encountered were all from powerful sections. Occasionally, they would encounter experts from the Holy Lands. However, everyone was still able to restrain themselves. For the time being, they would search for resources on their own. In the end, they would fight each other and plunder each other. The 4, the sun. As for the experts scattered around, they were all individual kings. There was nothing to be afraid of. The wishful bell in his hand vibrated, and the low rumbling of the bell seemed to come from the end of the wilderness. The air wave rushed towards the body of the octopus, and then it swept up the 2 people beside it and rushed towards the lake. Boom! A wave of water rose from the surface of the water as high as 1,000 feet. The people of the Kuang sect were so frightened that they quickly retreated. "Back, leave this lake. Don't squeeze." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The experts standing on the periphery quickly rushed towards the plains on the opposite side. Boom, boom, boom. Whoosh! The waves surged, covering the sky and the sun. The clear lake became turbid. Occasionally, tentacles with powerful suction cups would reach out like spears. As long as they pierced the body of an expert, the suction cups would instantly suck away the life force of the expert. No one could escape. At this moment, the lake was dyed red with blood. Buzz. The sound of the bell and the sound of the sword intertwined. The bottom of the lake was in a mess. The 9 experts had lost 2 of their lower plane cultivators in the blink of an eye. Wu-Chi Shuihen was the first to escape. He rushed ashore with a look of horror and escaped along the iron chain bridge into the crowd. The people of the Kuang sect were very anxious. Lin Wutian had already drawn his sword and was about to enter the lake, but he was stopped by Qi Shuin. Don't go down. You'll die if you go now. There's a middle plane mutated octopus under the water. It can kill a lower plane cultivator in an instant. Qi Shuihen said in a low voice. Whoosh! Boom! Yi Qinghan held the wishful bell in his hand and struck the bottom of the lake with his palm. Following the impact, he rushed to the bottom of the lake and rushed up into the sky. Immediately after, Yi Luhen and the other 4 experts of the ferocious army rushed out. Of the 9 who went down, only 6 came back. In just a moment, 3 lower plane cultivators died. Even their bones were not preserved. They were eaten by the mutated octopus. Boom! Bang! A tentacle reached out of the water and rolled toward Yi Qinghan and the other 4. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He waved his hand and a terrifying 16-grade flame turned into a roaring true dragon. It pressed down on the tentacle. Puff! A blood sword spurted out from the suction cup with a majestic impact. Ordinary water was not burned by the 16-grade true dragon fire marrow. A middle plane cultivator was indeed a middle plane cultivator. There were too many powerful ones. A true immortal could kill all the heroes in the world with a withered leaf. A weak person could not kill a strong person with a divine weapon. Whoosh! Yi Luhen and the others took advantage of the moment when Yi Qinghan resisted and escaped from the lake. They stepped over the iron bridge and hid in the crowd. Their faces were pale and they were still in shock. No one dared to pry into the secrets that Yi Qinghan wanted to know. Lin Wutian released the xenogenic octopus. The xenogenic octopus was very respectful. It didn't want to offend Lin Wutian. I will call you a slave beast from now on. Now, let me ask you, which civilization did the ruins at the bottom of the lake come from? Who is the creator of the Green Lotus Sword song you mentioned? Where is he? Yi Qinghan stared at the xenogenic octopus. The xenogenic octopus looked at Yi Qinghan and saw that he was unusually respectful. It replied, My lord, this is the Shang dynasty. It was once a great world, created by the great master. He is the great creator. We were all created by him. I was fortunate enough to see the great master in action. Later, because of a great war, the Shang dynasty was destroyed, and the great master went missing. We, the weak slave beasts, went into hiding, and the humans were all killed. Yi Qinghan was shocked. The creator of the great world must have been an eternal being. He must have been one of the strongest eternal beings. The fact that the Green Lotus Sword song could kill an eternal being was proof of that. But the great world he was protecting had been destroyed. Who was the one who did it? Who fought against your creator? The sacred lord of the central plains of the eternal world? Who was the one who destroyed the Shang dynasty? Yi Qinghan continued asking. The mutated octopus shook its head and replied in confusion, Back then, we were still very weak. We weren't qualified to watch the battle or help our great master, so we couldn't tell who the other side was. This slave beast only heard from some of the top upper realm ancestors that back then, our master fought against more than 10 eternal sovereigns alone and killed many enemies. However, he was outnumbered and had no choice but to give up on the great Shang world. He scattered a will and told all beings in the great Shang world that whoever comprehended the Green Lotus Sword song would be the master of the great Shang world. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched in disbelief. There was no need for those eternal beings to attack another powerful eternal being. Was the great Shang dynasty connected to the eternal world in the past? Yi Qinghan asked, following his own train of thought. This time, the octopus replied with certainty, My lord, our great Shang dynasty was an independent world in the past. It was not connected to the eternal world. Later on, it was forcefully torn apart by a powerful existence. In the end, It intersected with the eternal world and became a pocket dimension of the eternal world. Back then, many of our enslaved beasts died at the hands of the experts of the great world. They either submitted or became slaves. Now, some of the powerful upper-level existences of the Great Shang dynasty are hiding like little enslaved beasts. Yi Qinghan suddenly came to a realization. He couldn't help but look at Lin Wutian.